So let's chat a little bit about Russia here. The prevailing wisdom in the West right now is that Russia is bumbling and fumbling. They're making tons of mistakes. Ukraine is on the victory march. None of this can be further from the truth. It is pure Western propaganda to pretend that anything besides the total destruction of the Ukrainian state is on its way this winter. And what do I mean by that? Ukraine has made territorial gains and taken back some of the land that Russia has occupied for months. This is being spun in the West as a huge victory, as proof that Russia doesn't know what it's doing, proof that our billions of dollars are going towards good use, proof that this is all worth it in the end. It's not. And what's really happening is the Russians are giving ground as they wait for two things to happen. Number one, they're waiting for the ground to freeze over. And number two, they're waiting for their hundreds of thousands of freshly called upon troops to train and to form into new units and to become battle ready. Russia is now beginning a new phase of this war, which will be more of a total war in the sense that Russia will be using far more troops, far more equipment, and overwhelming tactics. So far in the war, they've used about 80,000 combat troops at a given time. Now we're going to be looking at hundreds of thousands of combat troops. So as Western media, I see it all the time, all over the internet, will pretend that Ukraine is about to win, is making these great marches. Be aware that another 500 to 750,000 Russian troops, thousands of armored vehicles, 1,500 tanks, many mobile artillery systems, armored personnel carriers, thousands upon thousands of artillery shells per day. They're all heading towards Ukraine. And the gloves are off. This is a different military operation than we've seen in months past. They're no longer running what the Russians called a special military operation, which had a lot of restrictions built into it. Now they're going to take the gloves off, so to speak, and it's going to be way bloodier. It's a tragedy, and this tragedy could have easily been avoided. This is not a war of necessity, except for maybe one party, which is the Russians, ironically. This is not the last few days before a grand Ukrainian victory. It's quite the opposite. It's quite the opposite. So let's just listen to Colonel Doug Macgregor explain his perspective, as to why we're about to see a total Russian victory.
The Ukrainian black earth topsoil varies from 4 to 12 to 15 feet deep. It depends on where you are. That's why it's such a productive region. You have to freeze that, because if it's not thoroughly frozen, you sink like a rock, whether you're in a truck or you're in a tank. It doesn't make any difference. It's not frozen yet. It's only just now dropped below freezing on a permanent basis. Up till this point, we've had freezing at night, but during the daytime, it's gone back up into the 40s or even 50 degrees. It has to drop below freezing and stay that way for at least 2 weeks. So if it's now below freezing and it stays that way, you can do the math. You're looking for something happening no earlier than the 10th, probably no later than the 19th of December. And you're talking about concentrations of Russian troops all the way around the country. We've accounted now formally by these are the people that sit in front of your monitors that control satellites. And the intelligence community says that it's accounted for 540,000 Russian troops. Okay. And of that 540,000, we're talking about 5,000 armored fighting vehicles, of which at least 1,500 are tanks. Probably another 1,000 self-propelled artillery, the rest infantry fighting vehicles. 1,000 rockets, missiles, tactical ballistic missiles, your so-called drones, unmanned attack systems, 1,000 of those systems. That doesn't even begin to address the hundreds of fixed-wing aircraft, hundreds of helicopters. The helicopters will move troops, obviously. There will be some ground support, hundreds of fixed-wing aircraft operating as close air support, and also bombers now. We've begun to see the use of bombers, which is something we've done for years. They're now beginning to do it, and they all have precision munitions.